It was the first Monday of the new school year at Hillcrest High, and the morning sunlight filtered through the tall windows of the main hallway. Students filled the air with chatter, laughter, and the rhythmic sound of sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. Among them walked Emily Carson, a shy 15-year-old girl with chestnut hair tied in a neat ponytail and a nervous smile that struggled to stay on her face. She was the new student again. Her family had moved 5 times in the last 6 years, following her mother's military assignments. But this time was different. Her mother, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Carson, had recently retired from active duty as a Navy SEAL instructor, one of the toughest women to ever wear the uniform. Sarah wanted Emily to have a stable life, free from constant moving and danger. Hillcrest was supposed to be a new beginning, quiet, peaceful, normal. Emily adjusted the straps of her backpack as she entered her first class, English literature. The teacher smiled kindly and introduced her to the class. "Everyone, please welcome Emily Carson, our new student." A few polite claps followed, but most students just stared or whispered. Emily felt her cheeks heat up as she took her seat near the back. Across the room, 3 girls exchanged smirks. Tina, the tall blonde captain of the cheer squad, Lacey, her sharp-tongued second-in-command, and Harper, who followed them like a shadow. They ruled the school's social circle, and they didn't like new people, especially ones who didn't instantly worship them. By lunchtime, rumors about Emily had already started to spread. Someone said she was weird. Another said she'd been expelled from her old school. Tina loved gossip, and by the time Emily entered the cafeteria, whispers followed her every step. She tried to ignore it, clutching her tray and searching for an empty table. "Hey, new girl," Tina called out from across the room. Emily froze. The cafeteria fell quiet. "You're in my seat." Emily looked down, confused. She hadn't seen any personal items on the table she'd chosen. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know." Lacey mocked. "Wow, she talks." The group laughed as Emily slowly stood up, her face red. "I'll find another seat," she murmured, trying to walk away, but Tina wasn't done. "Wait," she said, smirking. "You should apologize properly. On your knees. That's how we do it here when someone takes my spot." A few students laughed uncomfortably. Others looked away. Emily's heart pounded. She wanted to run, but she also didn't want to cry in front of them. "No," she said softly but firmly. "I'm not doing that." Tina's expression hardened. "What did you say?" "I said no." The cafeteria filled with whispers again. Tina's smile turned cold. "You'll regret that, new girl." That evening, Emily didn't tell her mom what had happened. Sarah greeted her warmly after work, still in her training gear from the gym. "How was your first day, champ?" she asked. "It was fine," Emily lied, forcing a smile. She didn't want her mom to worry. Sarah had been through enough. War zones, dangerous missions, sleepless nights. Emily didn't want to add high school drama to that list, but Sarah could sense something wasn't right. Her instincts, honed from years in the SEALs, were rarely wrong. "You sure?" she asked, narrowing her eyes slightly. "Yeah, Mom. Just normal school stuff." Sarah smiled, though her gut told her there was more to it. "All right, but if anyone gives you trouble, you let me know. You're stronger than you think, Emily." The next day, Emily walked into school determined to keep her head down. But bullies don't forget, and they don't forgive resistance. After gym class, while Emily was changing in the locker room, Tina and her crew walked in, their perfume filling the air like a warning. "Hey, new girl," Tina said sweetly. "Heard you think you're tough now?" Emily turned, startled. "I just want to be left alone." "Ah, that's cute," Lacey sneered. "She thinks she can tell us what to do." Before Emily could move, Harper shoved her shoulder, sending her stumbling against the lockers. Tina laughed. "What's wrong?" "Scared." Emily's breathing quickened. She'd never been in a fight before. Her mom had taught her self-defense, but she'd never imagined she'd need it. Especially not here. "Leave me alone," she whispered, but Tina wasn't listening. She kicked Emily's bag across the floor and then shoved her again, harder this time. Emily fell to her knees, her hands scraping against the cold tile. Lacey snickered. "On your knees, just like we said yesterday." And then Tina did something she'd regret for the rest of her life. She kicked Emily in the ribs. Once. Twice, Emily gasped, pain shooting through her body. Tears blurred her vision. Stop! But they didn't stop. What they didn't know was that Sarah Carson was already in the building. She'd come early to meet Emily's teacher about a field trip form. When she reached the hallway outside the locker room, she heard the muffled sound of laughter and then a cry that froze her blood. A sound no mother could ignore. In a flash, she pushed open the door. The laughter stopped. Three girls turned and froze. Standing in the doorway was a tall woman in a navy training jacket, her eyes blazing with fury. Sarah's voice was calm but dangerous. Step away from my daughter. The bullies stared, stunned. Tina's mouth opened, but no words came out. Sarah stepped closer, her presence commanding the entire room. Did I just see you kick her? And no, ma'am, Tina stammered. We were just quiet, Sarah snapped, her tone sharp as a knife. You think it's funny to hurt someone smaller than you? You think that makes you strong? The girls stood silent, trembling. Sarah knelt beside Emily, helping her to her feet. Are you okay, sweetheart? Emily nodded weakly, tears spilling down her cheeks. Then Sarah turned back to the bullies. Her calmness returned, but her eyes burned with controlled anger. Listen carefully. You may think you run this school, but you have no idea what real strength looks like. I've trained warriors who've faced fear, pain, and death, and you three wouldn't last 5 minutes in that world. The girls couldn't even look at her. Sarah continued, her voice cold and steady. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to teach you something. What you just did, that's cowardice. Real strength is protecting the ones who can't fight back. The door opened behind her. It was Principal Monroe, alarmed by the noise. What's going on here? Sarah stood tall. What's going on is that your students assaulted my daughter in your school. I expect this to be handled immediately. The principal's face paled. Of course, Mrs. Carson. Commander Carson. Lieutenant Commander, she corrected calmly. And you will call their parents. Now. Tina's eyes filled with tears. Please don't. Sarah's gaze softened slightly. You'll have to face the consequences of your actions. Maybe next time, you'll think before you decide to hurt someone. By the end of the day, the entire school knew what had happened. The bullies were suspended. But something else changed too. The way people looked at Emily. Some began to smile at her in the hallways. Others apologized for not stepping in. For the first time, she felt like she could breathe again to take the tea home that night. Sarah brought Emily a cup of cocoa and sat beside her on the couch. I'm sorry you had to go through that, she said softly. But you handled it bravely. I didn't feel brave, Emily whispered. Sarah smiled. That's the thing about courage. You don't always feel it, but it shows when you need it most. Emily leaned on her mother's shoulder. I'm glad you were there. Sarah kissed her forehead. Always, sweetheart. Always. The next morning, Emily walked into school with her head held high. When she passed Tina and the others, now quiet, humble, and avoiding eye contact, she didn't feel hate. She felt pity, because her mom was right. Real strength wasn't about hurting others. It was about standing tall, even when you're scared. And for the first time in a long time, Emily knew she was exactly where she belonged.